Why do most Roblox Asymms fail? Ever since the recent cancellation of Outcome Memories, I've been asking myself, why does every Roblox asymmetric horror game ends up suffering the same fate of either outright getting shut down or just losing all of its players? With the recent explosion of brain rot on Roblox, we've seen asymmetric horror games like You vs. Homer come out of the woodworks and just straight up take over. Mind you, You vs. Homer wasn't even meant to be taken serious. It's a troll game, yet it's averaging more players than real Asymms like Die of Death. And yeah, you can say games like You vs. Homer are just trends and will die once it's over, but that doesn't change the fact that these are the Asymms people are choosing to play over the actual ones that we're getting. And then you have the games like Violence District, which, no offense to Violence District, but it's just a blatant Dead by Daylight copy. It's not even trying to hide it. But as I'm recording this, it's like 1 in the morning and it's sitting at 40,000 players. So why do the blatant copy and brain rot asymmetric games have all of the players? If you ask me, I would say it's because the asymmetric games we get that have way more passion put into them and are way more creative are all handled poorly. Not all, but for the most part. Now there are 3 main asymmetric games I want to talk about for this video, and that is Breaking and Steal Things, Outcome Memories, and Pillar Chase. As of recording this, as we all know, Outcome Memories has been cancelled, and Pillar Chase 2 alongside Bias are both sitting at well under 500 players, while games like You vs. Homer and Violence District are well above 10k each. Even Doom by Fate is only averaging around 500 players right now. I also wanted to say, in this video, I'm only going to be talking about the current versions of Pillar Chase 2 and Bias, because I know in the future they're due for remakes and changes. Now I do want to clarify that I know balancing an asymmetric game can be very difficult due to the nature of it being asymmetric, and I also know that the communities for these games are a lot to take in. But the main issue for a lot of these asymmetric games that come out and die, especially these 3, was the balancing. Now there is no perfect world where pretty much everyone is gonna agree that something is balanced inside of an asymmetric horror game. No, people are gonna disagree on almost everything. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the only asymmetric horror game on Roblox that I'm pretty sure a good majority of people can agree is decently balanced is Forsaken. From a strictly gameplay standpoint, Forsaken's balancing is pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty good. But once you move on to games like Pillar Chase 2, Outcome Memories, and Bias, there is a huge difference. Starting with Outcome Memories, the game was either extremely survivor-sided, where the killer felt like target practice to the survivors, or the game was extremely killer-sided, where the survivors were like ants against giants, which was the executioners. The balancing was just super horrid, and it was never in between. It was always one-sided, and it could never reach a middle ground. This was due to either the survivors' moveset just being extremely overtuned, or the killer's moveset was so busted it felt like it just wasn't tested. Like I said, all Asymms are going to be hard to balance, especially Outcome Memories, due to them allowing their survivors to fight back harder than any other survivors in any other Asymm. But in this game, they were so viable on their own that it had the killers questioning whether they were the killer or was it the survivor that was the killer. First timing killer in Outcome Memories just wasn't a fun experience at all. Now, Breaking and Steal Things, on the other hand, has a pretty similar issue with Outcome Memories, where the killers don't feel much like a threat. Instead, in Breaking and Steal Things, the killers felt more like just an annoying disturbance in the way of the survivors trying to finish their objectives. It just feels like the killers in Bias pose almost no real threat when you play the game, and it doesn't help that the chase theme layers are extremely glitched. It starts the chase themes from the beginning of each layer once you walk in the radius, so it feels like just super unsmooth and annoying to listen to. But the main issue with Bias is the fact that there is no way to actually understand what's happening in the game. There is absolutely no tutorial, and the game doesn't explain anything to you, making it a bad experience just that much worse. The concept of the game is very cool, being an extraction Asymm game, but the problem is that I'm so confused as to what's happening that I end up just killing my teammates and having a dance party every 3 seconds. It's just the most confusing first time play experience, and it definitely draws players away from the game. Now when it comes to Pillar Chase 2's balancing, there is one main issue, and that's that the game is extremely killer sided. Now if you're anything like me, you love a strong killer role, and in Pillar Chase 2, that's exactly what you're gonna get. But that's it. The killers in Pillar Chase 2 have a lot of quality and effort put into them, but the survivor gameplay is literal hell on earth. So much so that they were basically forced into adding perks to help the survivors live a bit longer. But this actually ended up backfiring on them because you can tell that there was no actual effort put into these perks. They're extremely useless. Almost every perk in Pillar Chase I was introduced to was so useless that I decided to just play the game without them. When playing Survivor in Pillar Chase 2, you're basically a ticking time bomb on the killer's watch, and you have an appointment with death. If the killer knows what they're doing, you're dead every time. This game is only fun to play as for the killers, not the survivors. Now I don't think every game should have survivors as cracked as Outcome Memories, but what's the point of playing the game if 90% of your rounds are going to be survivor and you're just getting slaughtered, which means 90% of your rounds are just going to be unfun. And just like the other two games, this makes for an extremely unfun first timing experience. Now, I do believe all of these are actually good games on paper. I just feel as if the balancing put into them needed a lot more time. This is why games like You vs. Homer are so successful, because the game isn't meant to be taken serious in the first place, and it does a perfect job at executing that. But games like Bias, Outcome Memories, and Pillar Chase 2 are definitely meant to be taken as more serious games when compared to You vs. Homer, but the balancing makes that reasoning fall completely flat. There's a reason why Die of Death stays successful no matter what, and it's because the game knows exactly what it wants to be. Die of Death wants to be a casual Roblox asymmetric retro horror game, and it does that perfectly in execution. It has tons of game modes, and the art style is kinda goofy to represent how it's a casual game and a casual gameplay experience. Forsaken, on the other hand, is drifting further and further away from what it was on release, but due to the balancing staying rather consistent, the player base stays loyal. And this brings me back to my main point of this video, of how balancing is what's killing a lot of these Asymm games. But hey, I just wanted to give my 2 piece on why I think most of these Roblox asymmetric horror games are failing. And don't take this as slander to any of the games I mentioned. I think all of these games are good and all have potential in the future. I just wanted to shed light on why I think most of the Asymms that come out end up failing. And with all the Asymm games that are going to be releasing on Roblox within this year, I just hope that they can do their releases right. But at this point, I'm just yapping. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree down in the comments. And with that being said, I'll see you boys and girls in the next one.
Up and chase through, right drop up and chase through. I know you ain't afraid to pop.